What up, and welcome back to Bold. I'm Darnell Miller, the producer of this show, and today we're doing something a little different. Today we have Alex Yemeck in the hot seat here to answer questions about him, his life, what he's up to, how this happened. And so let's just jump right into this. All right, Alex, how are you?
All right, no problem. Thank you very much, Darnell, for having me. that was surprising, though. That was surprising because you came and I was waiting for us to have a new guest, and I am the guest.
Yep, so. You're the guest today. People want to know about you.
Yeah.
So let's just jump into it. So
definitely.
Just tell us a little bit about yourself, your background. What were you doing before you came to St. Thomas?
Yeah. Wow, that's man. I have a long history. It's not that long though. It's just a lot of different things. I just wanted to mention. Yes, I am. My name, of course, Alexander Yemeck, and I am originally from Cameroon. Cameroon is in Central Africa, and I was born here. My mom was working as a secretary in the United Nations.
Oh wow!
And she was she was working for the Cameroonian government, and as a simple secretary, she doesn't benefit from what real diplomats benefits in terms of exempt from taxes and things like that. So when I was born, I was honored to become a U.S. citizen. Since I wasn't a child of a diplomat. So we went back right at maybe 2 months after I was born. So we went back, and I grew up in Cameroon. I grew up in Congo as well. So the Congo is at the time it used to be Zaire, which is the Republic, the Democratic Republic of Congo. So I did my primary school there, and then my secondary school in Cameroon, of course, college. And so I, came back here when I was 17 years old, and then started living. I arrived here in New York, lived in Maryland, and I started working. Of course, going to school and learning the language and other stuff, and then after that I started working, and I happened to work, after my education, I started working with the government here.
Okay.
Yeah, so
with the U.S. government?
Yes, government, yes. So
okay.
I started as a contractor with the Trademark Office, which is the Department of Commerce. This was a month right before 9/11.
Oh, wow.
And where I was Arlington, Virginia. We could see the Pentagon from where we were.
Oh, wow.
So when it happened, the smoke and everything, I mean,
you were right there.
Right there, yes. Very difficult day. We actually left. I remember this, of course, happened, I think it was before noon or something like that. And we left immediately because it was chaos. But we arrived home, something that usually takes us about 30 minutes with traffic. We arrived home 8 hours later.
Oh,
that's
goodness.
how bad it was. Yes, that's how bad it was. Yeah. So I did most of my career in government. So I left there 2 years after, went to the Justice Department and focused on immigration. So so I've worked all my years in immigration as a paralegal first, and I was focusing on helping attorneys and also helping drafting argument and things like that. So after that, then I moved in Houston in 2011 with my family.
And what prompted that move to Houston?
Yeah, so this was actually because I've always wanted to live somewhere else. I wasn't when you're in Africa, there are states that we know. So we know places like New York, California. We know Washington, D.C.
Okay.
Now, New York was a place where I was born, and this is a place where I thought I was going to live. Unfortunately, when I got there, I didn't have anybody there. So I ended up in Maryland. Okay. So we never knew Maryland when we were back home. It's like, that's not a popular place. So I've always had in my head that I had to live somewhere that we knew. So we knew Texas. We knew Texas was a very popular place. So, and also, of course, the weather. I talked about, running away from the cold. So Houston was the perfect place.
Okay.
Not only the economy was doing good, the weather was good for me. I don't complain. I know it gets really hot, but I don't complain. So that's what brought me here. And of course, throughout this entire time, and one thing I usually say, I've always been a strong Catholic.
Okay, yeah.
So I've come from a very Catholic family. My grandfather wanted to actually be a priest, but he didn't have an opportunity because his family was dying. So what happened is he had to continue the name, because it's very important in African families to continue the lineage.
Okay.
So he had to leave. He was already a brother, right? So he had to leave the church, and of course the church understood that. And what they did is that my grandmother, she was an orphan, so she grew up in the church as well. She grew up in a convent. So they took my grandma, at the time, marriage in Africa was arranged marriage. It wasn't anything where you will go, So when they saw his situation, they say, look, we will give you a wife. So the church gave them my grandmother.
Wow.
Yeah, so they put them together and they got married. And so all our lives, I didn't know my grandfather. He died before I was born. But my grandmother, very strong Catholic. We will go to church. When we were on vacation, we would go to church every day.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And after church, a 6:00 service, and after church, she will sweep outside of the church. So everybody had a portion where they would clean. And we will sweep outside of the church. And this is one thing and matter of fact, she was getting sick because of that. The dust. And also in Africa, people throw things all over the place. They even urinated outside and things like that. So all of that is actually affected her life. But she never stopped. So we were trained to be strong Catholic. So when I came here, it is even the people of the church who helped me get jobs and all of that.
Okay, wow.
To government. Yeah. So the entire time I've been in a choir, we formed a very strong French-speaking community in the Maryland area. So when I came here, I joined into, a priest, Father Clement, was at Saint Benedict. He called me and he was like, I've heard you've done this work before. Let's start a French African community. And that's how we started. So for 4 years, we were running that community together. So that is how I ended up at St. Thomas.
Really? Okay. So I was going to ask that. Yeah. So how did St. Thomas happen?
Yes, because, very close to Father Clement, he strong spiritual priest. He worked in Cameroon for 12 years. That's where he learned how to speak French. He actually was, he's from Nigeria.
Okay.
But his very first assignment was in Cameroon when he became priest. Yeah, so he worked there for 12 years, built churches there. He started English-speaking communities in French areas.
Okay.
And so when he came here, because he spoke French, learned it in Cameroon.
Did the opposite.
He was like, Cameroon was the place where I started work, in the French-speaking area. So I want to start a French community. And so, but he himself, he's a PhD holder in theology, very educated. And so loves philosophy. So when he was preaching, when he preaches, it's attractive, very attractive, down-to-earth person. So he became my spiritual father. I assisted in helping him manage his parish. And so we became he's really the father I didn't have.
Okay.
And because of him, I told him, look, you know what? I have to go study theology. So, and that is, and I was very excited. I said, let me go. And the only Catholic university we have here, in my life, I've always said, you know what? I'm when I was in government I had an opportunity to, for them to pay for my education and all of that. But I've always said to myself, I'm not going to take a student loan. But for this time, I had to make an exception. I was like, you know what? I have to study this theology and philosophy. And I did everything in my power to come back to school after, many years without being in school. Of course, and another thing with that he gave me is also the love of studying, because before that, I wasn't really a fan, but working in government, working in immigration, I had to do a lot of things, read, write, drafting, sometimes arguments and things like that. So it was things where, I started, liking doing things I didn't like doing before. So he really did, because of his inspiration, I said, you know what, let me come and study theology. So in 2017, I said, all right, let me start. And because I also work, it's still in the immigration field, so I have to take a part-time.
Okay,
so I'm struggling between
balancing the work and then balancing the school.
The children at home. My wife works at night. And she also takes classes now. She's doing her master program to be a practitioner nurse.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so she takes online. So I have to, kind of compromise with her on keeping the children. And, so it is because I love, I love the fact that I'm studying theology and philosophy. I I'm willing to sacrifice as much, you know.
Yeah.
I sometimes don't get enough time to sleep, but I'm like, you know what?
You got to do it.
When you love it, you know, you really have the energy.
And so what has studying the philosophy and the theology really given to your life so far?
Oh yeah, man, a whole lot. I mean, the way you see life changes completely. Now I have answers to things that I didn't have answers before. For example, you know, why do people suffer in third world country the way they do? You know, what is it that makes us different from Western countries? You know, how are they able to, you know, reach out to that full potential? Why can't we do it? When I see China growing today, in the 80s and early 90s, China was even more poor, very poor, even more than Africa. You know, and today China is, you know, a huge country, and I am able to understand these things now. You know, because Chinese themselves, there was I've saw a documentary where someone said that Chinese, for many years, they sent spies in Western countries like United States and Europe to find out what is it that makes them so powerful. We are more than them. They're small, you know, we are more than a billion, stuff like that. How come the United States just 300 and some millions? Why are they so powerful? And every answer of the spies that they sent, whether in America, United States, whether it's Canada or Europe, they all came back with the same answer: Christianity. They were all saying that this Christianity is what attract people, right? That's what makes it so that they just have these values, you know, that, you know, freedom, you know, people can speak the way they want. They treat women the same way they will treat men. You know, it's not like us where we oppress some people. So they have this view that everybody's free, and this is this Christian way of seeing things. And they came up and say Christianity. So for me, you know, studying philosophy, because I've been in the church all my life, right? And by starting the French community here, I'm faced with having to give Bible classes and having to explain to people, you know, these things we do in church. Now, but the major problem is now, how do you explain all these rituals in the Catholic Church? That how does that apply to real life? And I had to get those answers. So when I come here and study theology and philosophy, now I'm able to give these answers to people. Say, hey, look, this is what philosophy is. Theology tells you that God exists. Philosophy proves that God exists, right? So now I am able to show the people that because God exists, right? And if you live your life this way, you can reach out to that full potential. That your intelligence, your intellect depends on the one who created you. If you can connect with him, you know, and you will see, and you can see that even in philosophy.
Oh wow! Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's very exciting. You know, philosophy is just beautiful. It's beautiful. Yeah.
And so coming back to school, like what were, you know, you mentioned that you had to balancing family and all that, but when you were coming back to school, were you nervous that, like, you know, it'd be different? Like, were you worried that, like, some of the students are younger and, like, you're coming back to school? Like, what was it like navigating that part of it?
No, definitely. Yes. I was nervous. Nervous to the fact, the thing that made me more nervous here was that I hadn't studied for a long time, right? And I was like, am I going to be able to keep up, right? Because you have the young cats that come in there from high school, and, you know, they are very brilliant and intelligent. They, you know, they are used to studying.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm coming in there and, you know, with, you know, a brain that hasn't studied for a while, and I'm like, okay, am I going to be able to make it? But I was really happy because my thing was like, hey, you know what? I'm ready to. If I've always had this view that if someone who's a human being like me is able to do something, I'm sure I can do it. And the thing that encouraged me is that I saw older people in college. So I said, okay, if older people are here, I know I can do it. I know I can do it. So that right there really, really encouraged me. Of course, when you come from Africa, where I come from, things are different.
Yeah.
At a certain age, you're supposed to be to school. If you look old and you're going to school, people are looking at you like, what are you doing here? Right? Yeah. So, but here also, the other thing that encouraged me a lot is the age. There's no age.
There's no age limit for education.
Exactly, exactly. And that's the beauty. So yes, no, it was a lot of, nerve, but very, very happy to do what I was doing. So I was like, and another thing, the last thing that encouraged me was like, people looked at me and they're like, you look 20. So
there you go. They thought you were younger than you were.
Exactly.
So like, yeah, okay.
I was actually talking to another student of mine. We were taking the same class, and we were just having a conversation. And I was like, I have kids. And they're like, oh, she's like, how old are you? I said, oh, I'm actually 38. And she's like, wow, but you look 20, right? So I'm like, okay, good. That way I blend in.
There you go. So in the first half, we talked about your life after college. We talked about your studies. You talked about why you got into theology and everything that you're doing. What I want to talk to you about now is your college experience. What has it been like? Coming back to school, and how have you gotten involved? I know the podcast is one of the things.
Yes.
But what have you been doing here?
Yeah. Yes. So in college here, is that I didn't get to do much. It's probably not that I'm doing more, because when I got in here in 2017, I was really involved in my parish, taking care of our French community to grow. Now, it's been, this is what, my third year? Yes. And so now, like this year, we got into the podcast, and I am thinking also of actually what we've started, trying to see how we can get a French African ministry here going as well. So we've started that. We had, every 2 weeks, we get together on a Saturday evening and worship, and sing, and then do some Bible class. So as things go along, and then we'll see how how we can get involved and help help see all this diversity that we have here in college, how we can all get involved and try to make it just a better place. When we talk about St. Thomas, that we're just the best, the best in Houston, and even in Texas,
Okay. And so you talk about the diversity of St. Thomas. I know a lot of people don't know this, but you were the one that came to us, the marketing department, to say, hey, I want to start something. Yeah. And so you were kind of the moving force on the podcast. Tell us a little bit about why you thought a podcast. I know you pitched a radio show initially, but a podcast was a form that we could actually produce right off, quickly. Yes. What was the idea behind it, and why did you think that this was something to pursue and something of value?
Yes. So at that time, telling you the truth, I had just recorded a CD, right? I just recorded a CD, and really I was looking for a place to play some music, see if we can, get into radio or something. And some clicked to me. I was like, don't we have something like that here in the school where we can, maybe a radio station or something where we can, we can play some music, or, so I was when I decided to, come meet with you guys and sit down and talk with you and our
Jeff, the boss.
Yeah, the lady, I forgot her name.
Oh, Sandy Solis.
Sandy, yes. And so when we decided to sit down, I was then at that moment, as we are discussing, the potential of what this can do for the school, it also comes along. So the idea, when we see a podcast like this, something that I've always have in my mind is, how can we help students develop their talent here using a podcast or radio or even television, right? My hope is that we can get all the way to that level where we have podcast, radio station, television, right? And if we can do that, then we open the door to helping a lot of students discover themselves. You're talking about someone who knows how to sing, maybe artist drawing or whatever, right? And we're able to get these students to present these talents on either podcast, radio, or television. Right? And with that, when they get out of college, they've at least built something that exposed their own talent.
Yeah.
Because out there is very difficult. Students are coming into college, especially, you have high school students, they're coming out of high school. All they know is their parents are telling them, you have to go out there and study, because That's the only way you can get a good job. So a lot of students are coming here because they are being told that that's what it is. You have to study, then you get a good job. Now, when you come and study, right, most of the time, I can tell you more than 90% of the students when they come here is about getting that degree.
Yeah.
Is not, they don't understand that there is an education, the spirit of education that you also need to acquire so that you can use that in life. And that is why they teach you theology and philosophy to all the students, depending on what you do, because they are reminding you that you are going to deal with human beings, and there's a way to deal with human beings, right? So when a student comes with that in mind, that, oh, all I'm coming here to do is I'm going to get my degree, I'll go out there and get a job, they realize that things are not that easy when they get out of college. So sometimes they ended up with degrees and then working, menial jobs, like something that, jobs that you're supervised by people who don't even have a college degree. Why? Because you have to build an experience. Now, if here at St. Thomas, we have this opportunity of entertainment, right? Where a poet, someone just discovered that he has a talent that he can do. Nowadays, we're talking about everybody has a YouTube channel, Facebook, and all that stuff, exposing something. If we can help students develop that talent, start something while they're still here in college, then when they get out there and they face the real world, if they are not able to get a job, at least they have a small gig that they started while they were in school, and they can even decide, hey, you know what? I know I have a degree in this, but I think this can take me even far because now I can expose my talent. I can sing. I can, I'm an actor, whatever, right? I'm an artist. I draw. I play music. Anything. I'm a good journalist. And some students can be right here hosting this show. Next thing you know, when they get out, being hired by, hey, we saw you at St. Thomas interviewing people. Why don't you come work at Fox or, CNN or whatever? You see what I'm saying? So we know how popular entertainment is. We know how big it can be. So the hope here is that students will come out and even bring us more ideas so that we can make this a better place and people can benefit from it.
And I think it's, I like what you said about the spirit of education, right? We want people to come to St. Thomas, or to be honest, any college experience they have, even if it's not at St. Thomas, you want them to explore all facets of their life.
Exactly.
Like they're saying, if somebody has an inclination towards poetry and they didn't know it, like this is something, this is the time to explore that. This is the time to figure that part out. And even if they pursue it part-time, or if they don't pursue but just use it as a hobby, like they're putting in time and effort into growing something that can give them like a sense of satisfaction or of accomplishment, or not every job you have is going to be your dream job. That's true. Sometimes going to do your job and then coming back and then doing something you really, really enjoy is what you need to do for a year or two.
That is so true. That is so true. You're 100% right. Because like you said, it can just be a hobby. And when you do things that you love, even if you're waiting to get a better job, just the fact that you're doing something that you love, right, it gives you hope. It gives you hope. You can forget about, this really menial job that you have. Let's say you're working for, I don't know what, maybe a receptionist somewhere with a master's degree or bachelor's degree, and you're like, man, I should be in the office or something. Right? At least when you come back and do this hobby that you have developed in school, at least you feel like, you know what, I have something to hope for. I know things will get better, and like you say, that's what it is. It doesn't necessarily need to be about money, right? It's just about, just doing something that you love, or something that you've discovered that you didn't even have. You didn't even know that you had it, and you've discovered it.
And so what is working for, for however many years in government and working in immigration and then coming back to school, what has that taught you about what you want to do next in terms of the way you pursue work or pursue a job? What lessons have you learned from that experience?
Yes, no, that was a good idea. So right now, I'm, and that could be a subject for another day, but I'm an immigration counsel, and I run a nonprofit immigration firm. So I am one of the one who is studying for the sake of studying. So I'm not really studying because I need a career, right? I already have one. But what I am studying now, right, theology, philosophy, makes my career better because I am dealing with people, right, who don't have papers, who are trying to apply for immigration if they want a status here. And every case that I handle is a personal one, right? It's been like that since I started working, for myself in 2014 when I started my nonprofit firm. But now that I am studying theology, I have the burden is lighter because to me, right, is very every cases that I take become personal. I want to succeed because I know that these people who are coming here came like me or came like my mother. They are coming to look for a better way of life, right? And I have their fate is in my hand. So coming to study theology, philosophy, now I can, I can understand what I need to do better, right? How to treat them better, and also not to make it too much of a burden for myself. Because when something goes a little bit wrong, I'm a little bit worried.
Yeah.
Oh, man, that's now on the same time, I also, because what I'm doing for my nonprofit firm is a part-time, it hasn't picked up to the point where it's a full-time business yet. So I also work for an immigration firm. And so doing that, is, and having been somebody who's been in the church all my life and someone who's way more focused, because one thing I always tell people, I say, look, in life you have to make a choice that people usually don't ask themselves as questions is either you are looking for, you want to be happy or you want to be rich. That's two different things. People think that being rich, if you become rich, means you will be happy. That's not true, and then you wouldn't have rich people committing suicide, right? But if you want to be happy, there is a possibility that you can be rich while you are seeking for happiness. It means that when you do work for someone, do it for the sake of that person. Don't do it for the sake of money, right? Because when you do that, then you're worried about how you are treating other people. You see, and that, it becomes way much better when I study theology and philosophy.
Okay.
Now I understand that way much better. Like, you know what? Yes. Forget the money. Like I also preach for wake keepings in Africa. Africans, we have we take wake keeping seriously. So the French community here usually invite me. Hey, can you come and direct our wake keepings because we don't have enough priests? So my spiritual father, shows me, gave me a program how a lay person can do it, and I usually, and I do that. So when I go there, and he told me, he said, look, Alex, when you go and do that, don't never, someone has to, a person who works has to get paid for the work that he does. But don't never tell them that pay me this amount of money. This is the work of God you're doing. Tell them that, yes, I'm coming from Maryland. I'm coming all the way down here. Just give me something so that, for my, and you will realize that they will give you more than what you expected. So it's never about the money. Don't never put money first. Always think about the people that you are helping, right? So when I come and study theology and philosophy, these are things I already knew in my head, but studying that makes it even better.
Yeah, makes it stronger.
Exactly, because now when I work either for the company where I work full-time at, which is located in New Jersey, and when I work for myself, now, I try my best. I try my best to constantly ensure that, hey, look, put my heart into it. I remember the names of my client. Doesn't matter how many of them there are. Remember the names of the people I work for, the cases assigned to me, because I take them personally. I'm like, I want to make sure that I am giving the best, so that these people will not, that they can benefit from what I'm, So it's always that question. Do I want to be rich? Everybody wants to be rich. Everybody wants, not that everybody wants to be rich. Some people, that say monks probably don't care, but everybody wants to live well.
Yeah.
That is the truth. But the question must be, what am I pursuing? Am I pursuing happiness? What does happiness mean? It means a clear conscience. It doesn't necessarily mean that, I'm always in everything always going to be. No. It just means a clear conscience.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't do anything wrong to anybody, so my conscience is clear.
You did as best as you could in everything.
Exactly.
You tried.
Exactly. That's what happiness is for us. But we still go through trial and tribulations. Happiness is just that, hey, you know what? I will try to live a good life. Or do I want to be rich? If I'm only focusing on money, then I can kill for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, then you can. Yeah, you can make those exceptions. You can cut. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. So one of the last things I want to ask before we run out of time is you talk about education for the sake of education, coming in with that spirit of education. What are like 2 or 3 tips that students could take with them to help shift that mindset of I'm coming to college to get a degree to do a job to I'm coming to college to become the best me that I can, so that way when I go out and do the work that I'm called to do, it's done well and done, and they can do that to the best of their ability. How do they make that change in their head?
Yes. One of the first things that I'll tell students, be aware of everything that goes on around you, right? We're talking about politics, especially when you're getting out of high school.
Yeah.
I'm not saying to get into politics. I'm saying being aware of it, right? Being aware of the political situation of the country. Yeah. Be aware of what your parents believes in and the struggle that they are going through.
Okay.
When you are aware of that, it will set up your mind for college. You will know why you are going there for. For example, for me, I came here from Africa. I left my mother that she trusted in me. She had all her trust in me when I was 17 years old. She allowed me to come here by myself. Yeah. Right. So I knew one thing. I had family that was back there, so I cannot fail, right? I have to succeed, right? So I am conscious of the situation. I'm coming out of high school, right? Freshmen, they are coming out of high school. They're coming out of high school, they're going to college. They need to start being aware of that situation. When you are aware of that, the second thing now is, look, I know that a lot of freshmen, when they come here, a lot of the time, they probably don't know exactly what they want to do at first.
Most of them don't.
Most of them, they don't know. Try to find out what you want to do. But you want to base that on the situation around you, right? You really want to see the things that are going on around you, your family, what is going on in your country. You want to pay attention, read some newspaper, take some news, and try to find diversity in everything you do. Then, of course, second thing is try as much as possible to always ask yourself that question. What do I really want to do? Right? Yeah. And is what I want to do, right, is it really my talent? Or am I just doing that because it's money? For example, I'm in an African environment. A lot of African people come here and they want to be in nursing. Why? Because he pays. Yeah. He pays, but sometimes they get in there, don't know how to put an IV in someone because you don't care. You just care about the money. Or sometimes you just begin to work hard. You're not focusing on how your children are growing up in your house. Yeah. You have a big house, it's all nice and all that. You pay the bills, but you're never there yourself. You don't want that type of life. So the second thing is always try to ask yourself, what do I want to do? Or if you've already found out what you want to do, make sure that you really are going to love it. Yeah. And doing what? Try to see if you can experience that a little bit. If you can take some
like classes or
internships somewhere. You see what I'm saying? Try to see if you can get into work. And then the third thing is that in school, when you get to college, try as much as possible to know that school because there is a lot of things that they can help you with. We're talking about the podcast here. There are a lot of things that you can come to know that you didn't know before that could help you. So try as much as possible to know the school where you are. Yeah. So those three things are very important. Know your surrounding, your families, and everything around you. Try to make sure that you know what you're going to do and know your school and how they can help you achieve what you want to achieve.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's a lot of really good advice. If you're joining us now, this is Bold. We're talking to the boldest among us, Alex Yemeck. He is usually the host here, but today we turned on him so he can answer all our questions. Thank you for listening. I'm Darnell Miller, the producer, and this is Bold. We'll see you next time.